is brilliant. It's a hero maximum. On the ground, down the ground, another hero maximum.
Righto, welcome back to the Maximum Cricket Podcast, episode 58. Those bloody cheating Aussies, or is Jonny just dumb? We discuss that and more. Ben Stokes needs drug tested. Anderson needs arrested. Starc can't catch. Steve Smith is really good. England are 2-0 down, or Australia are 2-0 up, I suppose. Today we have Jacko, as always. Lugsy's still away, but we have a roaming Pom who is living out in New Zealand. Luke, first of all, welcome back to the pod. Just off the bat, without too much detail, what's your general feelings today? Tough being overseas. I know you want to chat a bit of Ashes cricket, so let us help you vent.
I think you say it's tough, but it's actually quite nice. Because I don't know if you know anything about the English media, but they do like to hammer everyone the second anything goes wrong. So it's quite nice just waking up in the morning, watching the highlights and sort of having my own opinions on it. And I think the thing that says where I am the most of it is I am waking up every day and watching the highlights. I don't think I was doing that in the last tour to Australia. I just sort of gave up after about 4 days of cricket and then didn't watch anymore. You just can't deny it's good cricket. So I'm pretty happy with where we're at, and I think it was a big stretch to really come at them and do the same thing and tear them apart. It does need tweaking the way we go about it, but it's still good to watch.
Jacko, and what are your sort of immediate thoughts on the contest?
Yeah, I mean, Luke summed it up well. It's been just great to watch. I think we're probably looking at 9 even days, potentially 10 even days. Aussie probably, you could say, had some upper hands in this test. I thought they finished, pretty strong after a couple of days, but I think there was no point when you thought this test was over. I mean, Stokes is 150. That could have easily been 180 and then winning. So I think even though, it's 2-0 down, it feels like we've had 10 absolute rippers days of cricket, and I think that's all you can ask for, especially from the outside. Obviously, the English will be a bit gutted to be 2-0 down, but I mean, this series is living up to the hype. A draw in England win would have just maybe tipped it over the edge in terms of how good it was, but if they can win the next test, this series is still alive because England are playing great cricket. They just haven't quite been as good as Aussie for the 10 days. But I mean, they're a win away from this series being all on and all go. So loving the series. As you said, the highlights every morning are fantastic. Every day someone else is standing up and someone else is doing something heroic, and like if it's Lyon batting on one leg, or Stokes fighting for 150, Bairstow's run out, there's just something every day that's happening. So it's two teams that don't like each other, two teams that don't want to lose, and they're playing fucking good cricket. So we're happy with it.
Well summed up, and there are a lot of talking points. There's a lot of controversies, but let's wind back the clock to the start. Day one, England win the toss, favourable conditions, cloudy skies. I believe Zach Crawley mentioned that if they had conditions, they'd win by 150. However, Australia flew out to 316 for 3. Travis Head making 77 off 73. Steve Smith made his 32nd Test 100. So straight off the bat, boys, what happened to England on that first day? That is Jimmy, that is Broad. I'm not too sure how they didn't sort of run through them like they always do.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. I think everyone was begging for that pitch to be green, for Broad and Anderson to go nuts. But I think maybe there was a bit of hangover from the first test. I think those old bodies, especially Anderson and Broad, that first test would have taken something out of them. It's pretty hard bowl charging it on the surface, doing nothing for you. So I don't know if there was a hangover from the first test. There was a good break, but I think we saw the fresh body of Tongue. He was their best bowler on the day. So that's maybe says something about that. So you don't know if it's just a little bit of the last test sitting in the legs or sitting in the attitude. But I think just rust me. They weren't quite good enough that day. And then I think just leaving Wood out just irks me so much. I think you've got to play your cards. You can't be 2-0 down in the series. Or it's a huge hole to be in, and to not pick a guy for durability issues. Wood could have made some serious things happen on that wicket. So, but they didn't get. Aussie went away from them. I think like 330 on day one. England have showed they can bat and chase that. So it wasn't out of hand, but they just weren't quite there. They didn't quite back up the talk from the week of, we feel like we're up 1-0, not 1-0 down, and get our bowlers on a good one and we'll run through them. They just didn't quite back the talk up on day one, unfortunately.
No, I 100% agree with the Wood thing. I think obviously with Bazball, everyone talks about it. It's all about the batting. It seems at the minute that the bowling attack is obviously bowling's a lot harder to go into it and be as expressive in a test match especially, but it does seem that we're so far the other way where we're just going to try and grind someone down, we're going to bowl the right areas, we're going to try and set people up without having anyone with that X factor.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, like Jackie, you brought up the point that Josh Tongue was the pick of the bowlers, and he definitely was throughout the whole test. And like, to England's credit, they did take 7 for 100 to sort of get themselves back into the test, 416 all out. It would have been nice to see Mark Wood. We'll talk about changes later, but I expect he comes in. And they did obviously get themselves right back into that contest. And then with the bat, they got out. They got out to a flyer, 208 for 2, Duckett top scoring with 98. And then, a massive moment. At the time, it felt like a huge moment in the test and definitely the series. Nathan Lyon in his 100th consecutive test. A stat that lauds his durability, ironically. Lyon raced in from the boundary and appeared to tear his calf. I think by now he's been ruled out of the series. He obviously wouldn't bowl another ball. I remember at the time thinking this was like Glenn McGrath 2005, the one big difference between the sides was a spinner and Nathan Lyon's out. How big of a moment did you think it was at the time there, Jacko?
Oh, yeah, huge, mate. I think you summed it up with the McGrath comparison. I think the only other person Aussie couldn't afford to lose potentially was Cummins. I think they've probably got the batting to cover a loss in the unit. But, yeah, I mean, and there was a lot of talk at the start of the series about how Lyon was going to be, taken down and England go at spinners. And he was unbelievably good in that first test, I thought. 8 for... Just bowled exceptionally well. Most spinners have been put to the sword by this England side. So, especially with England losing Leach, I think having that genuine number one spinner was seeming to be Aussie's sort of trump card in the series, I suppose, moving forward. So to lose that is, honours even again, I think. So, probably I think if Aussie lost Cummins, they'd be down that McGrath route, but losing Lyon is massive, and he sort of feels like that heart and soul a wee bit of this Aussie side. Everyone loves to bring it up. He got given the team song from Hussey. Yeah. So I mean, he'll probably still be doing it on his crutches and banging them away when they're winning. But yeah, he's played 100 games for a reason in a row, and just a shame to go out fielding. So he'll probably be in the grippers when he comes back, I imagine, and never run again.
Skatey, what did you think of no Nathan Lyon? Did you feel like that should have brought England right back into the contest?
I think it did. If you look back on it, it's a pretty high 4th innings total we've ended up getting to anyway. And you add Nathan Lyon into that, we're going to get a lot less. But from my view, I'm extremely delighted with that injury.
Wow, that's fair. I mean, it definitely helps.
It really opened. We're 2-0 down. I think, as I was saying before, it was. I think it might have been back in the 30s or 40s since someone came back from 2-0 down to win an Ashes 3-2. But we've got no chance of that happening if Nathan Lyon's there. So I don't know. He's one of the best bowlers in the world, and he has been for a while. So
yeah, you throw in a new spinner, it just brings that England can properly attack a Todd Murphy or whoever is, because like Nathan Lyon's going to come back, and it might not be in that game, but it will be the next. Whereas like what told me if he's played 5 tests, maybe 3 in India, like he is raw as raw can be, and if he's going to get taken down, sort of spell 1 of his Ashes career, that could end up being really sort of derailing. So yeah, it's a massive loss, and I think it swings this series back to sort of even on paper. So yeah, I mean, we saw how much of a loss Leach was for England, I think, in the first test. So yeah, it's right back on Aussie now. So be interesting to see what they do with the spin position. But it's all go.
There'll be a lot of pressure on Murphy when he comes into it. He'll be under pressure for sure. And we talk about it being a great equaliser. However, at the time, straight after that injury, England collapsed. They lost 8 wickets for 117. They were all out for 325, still 90 odd behind Australia. Now, this was probably the first time I remember Bazball actually copping some serious heat from their media. Luke, you mentioned before that the media loves to turn on a dime on their side, and this was no different. I guess like the optics of some of those dismissals, like your Harry Brook, they don't look great, but if you play this style of cricket, this is what you're going to get. Luke, we'll start with you. What did you make of the criticism England received after that sort of collapse, where they sort of tried to hit every bouncer out of the attack and they kept holing out? Should they have grinded down and played sensible cricket, or what do you think?
No, like I said before, I'm glad I'm not having to have it shoved down my throat every day and listen to this, and I can sort of go and find out my own information on this. And if I do want to listen to someone have a rant, I can go and have a listen to it. But I think cricket, especially in the UK, it's in a tough spot as a sport, where it's all about getting people invested. And we'll obviously touch on the controversy before, but people are talking about it, and now we're doing something exciting with the sport. Like, people that aren't massively into cricket are getting involved in it. We're competing with football, which is ridiculous in terms of like media coverage. So to just even get some people talking about it is really good for the sport. And I just can't believe, I hate pundits so much, especially in cricket, where it's all ex-players slagging off people for making the same things they've done 10, 15, 20 times in their career. It's an exciting way to play. They're very clear in the way that they're playing. England get criticised a lot in the past for not having clear direction. Now we've got a direction, it's the wrong direction. I don't think that we're ever going to reach a point in English media where they're happy. It's really frustrating to sit and listen to a lot of the time.
Preach.
And I like the fact there is such a clear direction, and you can't expect us to go from the recent Ashes series to coming in straight and winning. I think that would have been such an incredible achievement, but to just be competing in every test is a big step into sort of, Australia are a very good team. It's not a surprise now it's taken a little loss of momentum in terms of how the media are backing it. It was always good, but we definitely, from watching, have come on so far from the last 2 series that are obviously fresh in the mind.
It's really easy to criticise all I hear is like they need to be more sensible, they need to do this and that, but it's like they forgot what sensible looked like before Bazball. It wasn't pretty. It was pretty fucking average, if we're honest. So it's like, I'd probably prefer this with a little bit of tweaking maybe, and let's go from there. But what did you make of that sort of mini collapse, Jacko?
Yeah, I mean, it's bound to happen. I think, that real ilk of like, they've done it to X, but will they do it to us? Like, can they do it to us? And I think we've sort of finally seen, like, this is probably the first like wave of Bazballs actually faced, like the actual first like failure they've had in a series that's the biggest it can be, and it was always going to happen in this series. And I think those English tabloids, they're they are trying to sell papers at the end of the day. So, English cricket's ruined over the front page is what gets people sort of buying the Daily Mail over the Sun and whatnot. So it's just English media is an absolute roller coaster. Like, if they win this test, you've got Knight Stokes on the front page of the paper, and like he's ready to, he's going to be the next king of England if they win this test, sort of thing. So it is that live by the sword, die by the sword, and I think like it's actually nice to see they're willing to die by it. I suppose is the way I've looked at it, because it would have been easy for them to, maybe ilk out 150 and a bit more time in that last innings. And then, they maybe don't have as much time to chase in the last innings, or Aussie don't set them something competitive because there's not enough time in the game. So, I suppose we're starting to see them sort of walk that talk of what they said of we're going to play this brand of cricket no matter what. And in the face of going down 2-0 to, which we've discussed in the past, potentially one of the great Australian cricket teams. Courageous, and you love to see it from just that fan perspective, and see them back it up and say they're going to do it, and then do it, and it fails, and then fucking have a red hot crack in the fourth innings, just like they said they would. It's good to see, and as Luke said, it's brilliant for the game because everyone is tuning into this series, and we're one England win away from this being all on. So, I'm loving it, and I'm all here for it.
Well, the irony is you've got the pundits going on about how England are reckless in the way they play the short ball because they go at it, and then you watch Australia bat in their third innings and they look great. Khawaja made 77. They were 187 for 2, and then England goes short as well. Australia lose 8 for 92, and they play it sensibly.
Oh, yeah.
They try and tap it around the corner. They duck and weave. They do this. Turns out playing the short ball is actually really difficult. It's actually just I don't know what the right way to play is. So just saying play it sensibly. I need a little bit more detail from our pundits, if you don't mind.
As you said, there's a reason bumper plan is for seamers option B or C. Is because it's uncomfy to bat against, and it's hard to control when you're getting it right. And especially Test match cricket, you can get hit for 20 off and over, but if you get the guy out the next over, fucking happy days. He's only faced 7 balls, so it's just that risk reward. One day cricket, it's obviously tough to go to because 20 off and over, and you've only got 4 left in the day. You've sort of fucked yourself. But when time is the determining factor in Test cricket, that control level is just so hard. And getting through the bumper plan is one of the tougher things you can do as a batter. If you're a batter, and if you're in a tail ender, fucking get me out of there. I'm hitting the first one straight up.
What do you actually make of the wave of short ball bowling, and as a spectacle? Do you like it? Do you want to see bumper after bumper, or do you think there needs to be a bit more variety in the game? If you're just watching it, do you like seeing pull shot, pull shot, pull shot, bumper, bumper, bumper?
Yeah, I think New Zealand weirdly get the balance right. Have got right, that World Test cycle we won, where Wagner would do it from one end. Bolt Southend, Colin and a spinner would just play good Test cricket from the other end. You sort of get the best of both worlds. But I suppose is it from a playing perspective, it's all go, it's all on when the bumper plan's happening. So you're sort of gone, this wicket's dead, it's not swinging, they've got a couple of set guys. You're right, this is our dice roll. So from that side of it and playing in it, I love it. I love to see it. It's good fun because it's. How tough it truly is to either get through or bowl it. So, these guys are at the absolute edge of their skill level trying to do this. So, to watch it, I quite enjoy it because it is edge of your seat stuff. Every time they pull, you're sort of wondering, is that going to hand or is that 6? And it brings a different element to a day of Test cricket, I think. So, I'm all for it as a spectator, to be honest.
Luke, you're a big fan of playing the short ball from my memories of playing together.
I did see a video recently that came up my memories of you doing some drills with me and filming it from the side, and it is. I think it's an effective plan against me for sure. I think I threw my bat in that video.
Yeah,
but
toys out
I'm
the
all
cot
for
stuff,
sort of,
yeah.
yeah, massively. Those Astro wickets are not fair. But no, I'm all for sort of any non-conventional plan in sport, or even if you want to call it sort of a bit of shithousery. Like it's just good to be a little bit different and try it. And Wagner obviously has made a career on it pretty much. I mean, he obviously can bowl as well, but he's drilled down something like Jacko said. It is tough to do, to just constantly dig it in, and something's happening every ball. But something's happening pretty much every ball the way England are batting at the minute anyway. I like it as a plan, and yeah, I think there should be a bit more of it.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can't argue the results. The results are what they are. Like, it brought England back into the game. Australia all out for 279. Broad took 4. England requiring only 371 to win, which sort of brings them back into that contest.
Normally.
It's nothing normally. So it's weird you say that, because normally you're like, that's a massive score, but then actually at the time you're thinking they're in this, they're right back in this, and then they're not in this, because we talk about the short ball plan. Well, Starc and Cummins, they didn't do that to start with. They rattled England 45 for 4. I mean, we're talking 3 of all-time deliveries. Pope getting that massive in-swinger from Starc. Root getting one to jump off a length off Cummins. And then the ball to Brook from Cummins was just that similar to the ball that Root got in 2019. In terms of other attacks, I just can't imagine any other attack in world cricket on that type of pitch that can just rip the heart out of a side in 4 or 5 overs. Like, can you think of any other side?
And I think that's where like Starc brings that X factor, doesn't he? And I think against Bairstow, Starc is your trump card, because he does bowl fucking seeds. Like, that ball to get Pope was unbelievable. Like, you can't play that. You can't tell me you can play that at 145 clicks. Like, that's unbelievable. And then Cummins is the best in the world for a reason. And we saw that ball that got Root is like, that is just pure like fast bowling porn for me. Like, I know top of off's mint and it's a seed, but yeah, you know, see it jump off and a guy just glove it into your cordon or look like off the shoulder. It's so good. But yeah, I mean, yeah, we're going to talk about this team if this series goes the way Aussies' way is one of the great test sides, and this bowling attack I think will be one of the reasons why. So yeah, I don't think there's a better in the world at the moment, and I don't think there's been a better in the world for a while actually.
Just quickly on how that ball to Root is like your fast bowler's pawn. In a way, that delivery is like a batter's pawn, because I don't know about you, but a lot of batters, like when they're sort of like just like shadow batting, and you know how you just sort of like fake that wee nick. You just sort of like you just sort of get squared up, and you get a wee, and then you sort of look back quickly,
cheek behind,
squared up, and like that's the delivery you think that you got every time, and then that's the ball you can legitimately walk off and go, can't do much about that.
Yeah. That's the one you get back to the sheds and go, not my day, boys. Fucking got a good one. So.
The old boys around the ground are coming up to you after that one and being, it's not much you could do there.
Yeah, it's like an acceptable way of dismissing, like Harry Brook. Harry Brook like slicing a pull shot out to deep cover. It's not going to get that same reaction, but getting one that rears off an end, that's where like the MCC members are like clapping you off, like sort of thing.
Yeah.
We pat on the back through the Lord's dressing room, just well, unlucky mate.
Yeah. And then if we sort of move forward, and this is where things get a little spicy, obviously Stokes and Duckett, they start to put on a wee partnership. I think it might have been 60 or 70 odd towards the end of day 4. And then we've got our first controversy here when Duckett, who was on 50 at the time, he gets a bouncer from Cam Green. He tries to kind of like a back away swat to third man. It kind of gets like the back of the bat, I think. And then it goes down to fine leg. Starc appears to take a pretty sharp catch. They check the no ball. then they notice something with Starc. He has control of the ball initially until his body hits the ground, and at that point he puts his right arm down to brace the ground, and then his left arm down as well, and he kind of like presses that ball face down, like ball first, into the ground as he slides, and it's given not out. A lot of controversy surrounding that, around control and that sort of bullshit. Straight off the bat, we'll go to you first, Luke. Out or not out?
Not out.
Simple stuff.
But
do you have a
no, I
case?
do have logic. I do have logic behind this, but it is just very obviously not out, and I don't understand why you're even talking about it. Because I've a lot of times in the catches, if you go the other way around with your hand, where you're trying to keep the ball up, and because you're trying to keep the ball up, your elbow will hit the ground first. I've seen a lot of times a diving catch like that, the elbow pops out. He's not even trying. The ball can't pop out of your hand if you're slamming it into the floor. It's great athleticism, but it's not out. He's not got control of it. You can't have control of it when your whole body's in the air moving around.
Yeah, he's got control of the ball, not the body. Jacko, yours, please.
Yeah, and this is again, this is so on the fence. I think this is a sort of catch where like the third umpire is almost detrimental to it, because when you slow this down and you look at it slow mo, and where's his weight, and you look at it on every frame, you're going to be like, he hasn't caught that because the ball's touched grass. I think the biggest thing is Luke sort of touched on it. Like he hasn't made that attempt to keep the ball off the ground. Like if he just gets down onto that elbow, it's no contest. I think there's that real grey area of like what's control versus has the ball touched the ground in your like motion of catching it, and you could say potentially he's still in that motion of catching it and the ball has touched the ground, which makes it it's so hard to call it because has he got control of the ball? Has he caught it? Like how different is that from catching it and throwing it up within a second in a caught and bowled? Like what's the difference there? Like who's to say as you roll over you've thrown the ball up, are you going to bobble it out like in a caught and bowled situation? Probably not, but maybe you would have and you didn't have full control. So yeah, it's such a grey area, the ball touching the ground. But yeah, I've probably gone a bit too long there, but Mum's giving me the old timeout. But yeah, I think it's just so
I was saying I'd love to I was DRSing, like I'd love someone to catch get you caught and bowled on the run, throw it up, and then imagine like as a batter, just like, can we send that upstairs? Like I don't think he's got control.
Yeah, because I think there's a Cummins one where he does that, where he takes it like on the dive and he's sort of rolling over. There's a Saudi one as well, and he sort of is half rolling and just throws it up, and it's like, well, you had that ball in your hand for 2 seconds. Like, is there control? So it's so hard to call, but I think with the ball touching the turf, Erasmus has made the right decision. Because like, at the end of the day, he can go, well, that ball's been grounded. That's not out. So.
It is a very strange way to try and catch it, though.
I don't know why he's done
drills
it.
and
It's
stuff
ridiculous.
you guys will have done over the time. I don't think I've ever caught a ball and thought I'll land palm down with it.
Well, it's always fingers under, isn't it? That's always your determinant.
Yeah.
Do you get those fingers under the ball? Like you're trying to keep it off the grass. That's your one goal.
It's basics. It's like get the ball off the grass. Like when I watched it live, I was watching it at work. I had the sound off, and I just seen it, and I was like, oh, that's not out. I didn't think much of it, and then I was very surprised on the controversy. Like I get all the arguments for it, and I get like to the letter of the law it's not out. He's in control of the ball. He's not in control of his body. But for me, he's just fucking grounded it, and you can't do that, and you've never been able to do that. And I'm really sick of this word control. Like I'm really sick of like, oh, he's got full control, he's got this. Nah, it's either fucking hitting the ground or it's not. Okay, like you just
you've got control over the bump ball, don't you? But that's not out. Like,
Wait,
it's
start
touched the
again?
ground, isn't it? Like, it's such a... Like, you've got control over a bump ball, don't you? Like, that's touched the ground and then you've controlled it. Like, just don't let
I
the
think
ball
they're
hit
the
the
harder
turf and there's no
calls
question.
where it's bounced just before the fingers. This for me was pretty
Oh.
black and white.
Yeah,
Those ones where you've got
Yeah.
to watch it 25 times I've got no idea.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Right, since we've got all riled up, let's go to another controversy, because if we move on to day 5, things started pretty well for England. They got through to 177 for 4 until Duckett was dismissed for twin 50s, this time making 83. And then Jonny Bairstow was run out or stumped or whatever you want to call it from Alex Carey. For context, it was the last ball of the over, and Bairstow just kind of walked off. I thought the over was done, I presume. And I believe he had been walking down the wicket a few times, and instinctively Carey caught the ball, threw it at the stumps, and when Carey threw the ball, Bairstow was still in the crease, but then he left the crease, so of course was run out, stumped. So again, I'll put it to you real simple. We'll start with you again, Luke. Out or not out?
I think you're going to be disappointed because I just think that is just out, and it's just so stupid.
Thought we were going in a different direction, I'm not going to lie.
I'm really sorry that you've got an English person on to talk about this, to create a little clip, but it's just out. I think from being about 11 years old, whenever I'm fielding near the keeper, up until when I was first team captain at 23 and fielding in the slip, if I saw something like that, I'm like letting the keeper know, I'm saying, right, you have a go here. We can steal one.
Jacko,
sorry.
Where are you at? No, it's fine. Like, we will talk about it more in depth. Don't you worry. But I'd love to hear Jacko's visceral take.
I mean, yeah, I vividly remember the series versus Sri Lanka that erupted in controversy when McCullum ran out jail. I think he ran out Muralitharan.
Yeah,
who's gone to
Murali.
congratulate his teammate scoring his 100, I think it was.
Yeah,
And
sang his 100, I think.
The team barred him from the media for days on end. Like, this was like a disgraceful moment for him to come out and be like, "We're not having a fucking beer with these blokes." Like, Bairstow's tried to do the same thing 2 series ago. Like, I think
2 days ago.
Yeah, 2 days ago. Even.
Two days ago to Labuschagne.
Like, the stance on this.
He just missed.
Yeah. Like, the stance on this is like this crime against cricket when, like, McCullum's had fucking been barred from the media for this stuff in the past. Like, it's just such a joke that they're so up in arms about it. I'll go on the record and say I don't think it's out. Because, and my reasoning is he hasn't offered a shot. It is the last ball of the over. The umpire, if the umpire's said over, he's just so fine. I've had a similar thing happen in a game where I've walked out of my crease, last ball, and gone, like, wicket's been bumped off, and my heart sank. I've been like, fuck, surely they're not going to give this out here. And the umpires are like, no, we've said over, like, it's last ball. Like, just some common sense, I think, needed to come through. Like, there's no intention for him to run a single there, like, whatsoever. So, yeah, I mean, for me, just if you take a step back on it, you just go, right, that's not out. And I think Paddy Cummins has to take the appeal away. And I'll go one further. I think Cam Green has to take the appeal away because as a nasty, the last thing you want on that scorecard is stumped next to your name. Because in 5 years' time, everyone's going to look at that and go, fuck, Cam, did you hit the keeper up, did you? And that's really going to hurt Cam Green's ego. So, yeah, I think the biggest loser of this controversy could actually be Cam Green in the long run.
It's a good take. I like it. For me, like, I just like the optics of it as Village. Like, I just all about it. I don't like it. Having said that, I'm not of the ilk that because that's my opinion, everyone else needs to agree with me. So I'm going to fucking shove it down your throat. Like some of the opinions going around today. Like, I also get it. It's out. Bairstow was stupid. All that sort of stuff. But yeah, like you said, Jacko, there's a lot of hypocrisy coming out of England at the moment. There's some real, like the biggest crime ever, and it's like Folks was
We are
doing.
good at this.
We talked about it last year on the pod. Like Folks was doing it, and we had a go at him, and everyone was like, "It's in the rules.
Yeah.
It's in the rules." Well, still in the rules this year. Last I checked. I mean, like remember when Pope ran out De Gronholm, and remember when there was that appeal, De Gronholm, sort of similar thing, not looking for a run, ran away for like an idiot. Ball falls to Pope. He throws the stumps down. I don't see how that's any different. It's the sort of carelessness plus like smart sort of stuff. And then like McCullum's actually done it in a game where for the Black Caps he's actually underarm, like he's done the exact same thing. He's ran someone out, and I just like, what are we doing here? Like, and then Broad's coming out like
I think
saying it's the worst thing I've ever seen in cricket, and he's like cut a ball to slip and not walked. It's like it's like just calm down.
I think it feels like England's like clutching at this as their, we shouldn't be 2-0 down because of this one thing, and it feels like that's what they're holding on to. Of like, it could be 1-0 or it could be 1-1, but like because Aussie cheated and now the old enemy and now the convicts from down the bottom of the world, they've screwed us over here. So. Yeah, there's some real hypocrisy coming out because, as you said, there's so many examples of this shit happening. I mean, if it's ball 5 of the over versus ball 6, like, Bairstow's out. He is gone. He's walking.
I think this is why I'm so definitive on it, because when you look through, someone put a compilation of him throughout the day, he's doing it every ball.
Yeah.
So if it didn't happen that ball, it would have happened on a different ball. And it's just when you're saying common sense from like the umpires and everyone involved, it's what are you gaining by leaving half a second after the ball's gone past you instead of a second and a half, 2 seconds? It's just silly cricket.
Yeah. It's a mistake you make it under nines when you sort of bat out your crease to try and negate a seeming wicket and you don't get back, and then you're like, fuck, I am never ever doing that. But
normally when you're 9, your tears kind of give you another bat, but like the tears from Broad didn't quite work, unfortunately.
Nah, exactly.
They didn't call back Jonny.
When it happens at when it happens at under nines, and Mum buys you an ice cream afterwards, you maybe get some fries, and your day's all much better. But yeah, when it happens on the biggest stage,
did fire up Ben Stokes though.
Ashes test.
At the time, like England are 193 for 6, they're 180 behind. Headingley, Ben Stokes came to the party and he just starts swinging. Stokes and Broad, they put on 108. Broad made 10 of those. Stokes 155, 214 rocks, 9 fours, 9 sixes. And at 308 for 6, they only need 63 to win. It's a good wins on the cards there. It wasn't to be. England lost their final 4 poles for 19 runs. Starc, Cummins, Hazelwood pick up 3 apiece. Australia win by 43 runs and have a 2-0 series lead. So obviously, like, the talking point probably is Australia going 2-0 up, but fuck that. Like, Stokes, what the fuck was that? That's like when he brought up his 100 on 3 consecutive sixes, I was like, wow, what's actually happening here? Luke, what are your memories of Stokes? Just doing this time and time again.
I think that's why, just touching back on the Bairstow thing, why a lot of people have got so uppity about it. Because obviously that Headingley test got to the point of us getting over the line because Bairstow did stick around and obviously have a good enough innings himself. And the same with the World Cup, someone stuck around with Stokes. I think Strauss said after, you can't just expect one person to do it, but I think at times the way Stokes makes you feel, I think you can just have one person do it. And you know he's going to do it again. Overnight when I've been like checking on the scores and I've seen Stokes, and I reckon I was looking at that and thinking we were still favourites while Stokes was there, just because he's not done anything for a little while. But you knew he was. He's been saving this for Lords, Pack, Day 5. He wants that knighthood, and this is how he's going to go about it.
It's funny how he only does it. He only seems to do it when it really matters, when they really need him. It's like they have to convince Ben that we're in the shit and we need you. Otherwise, he's like, nah, not interested. not interested. Like the stakes have to be higher.
Yeah, I think if we were batting on a flat track and he comes out with like 500 for 4, 500 for 5, he's getting less than 10. You bring him out with 10 for 5, he's turning up.
He does it when it's tough, and I think that's why he's been that sort of leader of Bairstow, and that's why guys are following him and guys are buying in because they know like, right, we'll take this as far as we can, but when all the chips are down, we know like he's actually going to be the one that will pick us up and pick these scraps up and win us games from nowhere. And yeah, I sort of woke up and was sort of reading through the group chats and whatnot. And it was Stokes 100, Stokes 120. I was like, oh fuck, England have won this. Like this is all good. And I was just like, oh yeah, that's a full gone. And then it was like, oh no, Stokes is out. And it's like, like fuck, like damn it, like Aussie 2-0. And I was a bit gutted. Like you're sort of reading it, and my updates were sort of through hours old group chat messages. But I was right. I felt like I was riding along with it just from like reading these messages, and yeah, to see it as a loss, unfortunately. Very niggly, but fuck, it feels like he's going to have something special for Game 3, especially if he's using this sort of Jonny Bairstow as the Michael Jordan conversation at dinner where old mate didn't talk to him and he said, "Nah, fuck you, I'm going to beat you." If that's sort of what Stokes needs to get into this series, England can keep going on about this Bairstow thing all they like. Because if it brings Stokes into this series and he keeps batting like this, fuck it, Bairstow wasn't out and long live England. That's what I say.
Yeah, just on the rest of the series. Obviously, yeah, the unfortunate end of that is that Australia are up 2-0, and only one team has ever come back from a 2-0 deficit, and that's a team with Bradman. So, I guess we'll go with you, Luke. But what do you think needs to happen for England to turn it around? Like, what do they need to do differently to win the next test?
I think we touched on it before, bowling wise. I think Wood or someone. We don't have that character at the minute. Like that last time we were at home was obviously when Jofra came through, and that was the real. We drew 2-2 with a worse team playing a worse brand of cricket. I think it's batting wise. I'm perfectly happy with it. We're scoring a lot of runs most innings, and that not much needs changing there. Obviously, watching the highlights, I've not been able to see everything, but there is a lot of talk about some peculiar field settings. Maybe you'll have a little bit better idea than me on that, whether that's something that needs changing. But I just think a bit more spice and something with one strike bowler or someone doing something different, really putting it down with some speed and forcing people and just being able to bowl that miracle ball.
I agree 100%. I think the batting's where it needs to be. I think the batting's in a position where they're going to win this test, where they can win the next test, I think. But yeah, I mean, Wood's got to play. He's your trump card. He's your ace in the hole. The fact that he didn't play this test because of durability concerns, I just think it almost feels the opposite of Bairstow. Like Bairstow's being like, we're not conservative. We're going to take the game to you. We've got this fucking absolute stallion in the shed, but we might not play him because his great granddad broke a leg running Ascot. Like, just felt like they were a bit too nervy with him. Because now they can't lose again, so they've just got to play him. Fuck it, if he pulls lame up after 2 overs,
Stokes will get five.
Like you've seen what, yeah, exactly. Like you've seen Stokes' knee will heal. Like you've seen what Robinson, Broad, and Anderson do without a quality spinner there. Like they're just not getting that rest, and their legs aren't quite fresh enough. So yeah, you've got to play Wood. I don't care if he bowls 2 overs or 30. He's got to play just in case. And then yeah, the batting. I think they've got to double down. They've just got to keep dying by the sword, and I feel like it's going to come right. Like they've been close, so yeah, I think they win this next test, and I think they do it off the back of some real fiery spells from Wood. Because I don't think the Aussies have been uncomfy yet at the crease. Like obviously they've been technically challenged, I think, with England's bowlers, but I don't think they've actually had that proper like, right, this is going to be tough. This is actually going to be uncomfortable. So yeah, you've got to bring that element into the series, and I think that's their only way back in it.
Yeah, I think tactically England have really missed the boat with the with the pitches they've wanted, and then the selections around it. Like, it feels like they've completely nullified Jimmy Anderson. Like, he's not even a thought. He's not challenging anyone at all. Like, I've never seen, like, Jimmy Anderson hasn't beaten Australia since 2015, and he's not going to if he keeps playing on these wickets. Like, you need to give him a little bit of juice. Like, I don't know why they're kind of playing into Australia's hands. Like, they're kind of does Bazball only work if you're playing on flat wickets? Like, I thought it was all wickets sort of stuff. Like, I don't know if you want flat wickets just so your batters can tee off, because then your bowlers get fucked. And then turns out Australia's bowlers, they can bowl on flat wickets, and then their batters just are they're crushing it, like, over and over again. So I think there needs to be a way more spice, because the other thing is they don't have a spinner when it's flat, so they're kind of hamstringing their own side. So I want to see more spice in the wicket. I think they'll rest Anderson's, because I was gonna go Anderson, but I think I wouldn't mind seeing like a Broad or a Robinson Pfeiffer or something like that, or even like a Wokes come into like that. So I think if we do our picks coming forward, I'm gonna go Broad top wicket taker. Yep. That's what I'm looking at. Jacko, I'm gonna assume you're looking at a wee Mark Wood top wicket taker, something like that.
Yeah, give me that. I think that's what this series needs. I think it's one of the few ways it stays alive. So, give me Wood top wicket taker first innings. Maybe even throw a carrot in there. Wood to take the first wicket of the Test. Obviously toss dependent, but if England bowl first, get that live bet in. Mark Wood first wicket taker.
Oh, I just think I don't know if it's just purely recency bias and how much I love the bloke, but I could see Stokes doing everything till the end of the series. I could genuinely see him just powering through and just doing everything on his own. I just think.
Are we multi? Are we top run scorer, top wicket?
Yeah. I'll go for a double. Yeah. I'm going Stokes for both.
I don't hate it. So just on that, boys, we've got obviously a pre-recorded segment coming up. We will shift to that, which is our Headingley segment, just a wee game. It's a wee trip down memory lane from the third test of the 2019 Ashes, Stokes Headingley. The boys review it. We've got Lugsy back for this one. A wee Name the 11 segment, so that's up next. Righto, so this week we've got a special Name the 11 edition with... so this will be coming out around the third test, so we're going to do on the anniversary of Headingley. We're going to see if we can remember the third test of the 2019 Ashes series, the Headingley test, the Stokes test. So I don't want to give it away too much, but Stokes is in one of those teams. So
you've named the player already.
Yeah, sorry about that.
My England, or was that beautiful?
Are you England? Fuck shit. Okay. Yeah, this is going to be quite hard. So, Lugsy, you want to tee this up, and it's going to be me and Jacko going to go. So, Jacko, do you want to go first, or do you want to go second?
I can go first. I'm England confirmed?
You're England, yeah. You happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so, right, it's in your hands there, Lugsy, if you want to
sort of dealing with one of the third test, Headingley, one of the more famous tests probably in recent history, as Munter may have already mentioned and given Jacko a wee pick there, Stokes heroics. We won't say who was at the other end, but we probably all remember. So Jacko, I'll tee you up. I'll give you 3, 2, 1, go.
Yes, we've got Stokes, we had Leach. I believe Archer played in that test. Bairstow, Butler. Trying to do this off the top of my head is tough, actually. Give me Broad. That'll be your seamers. Anderson not playing. Who do they have as sticks back then? Cook was done. Well done. Yeah, this is tough actually. I haven't looked at anything for this.
That's time.
Okay. How many I get?
I actually think, having not looking at a thing that's good, I'll read you through the English lineup. I tell you what, no wonder this opening pair got skittled. Rory Burns and Jason Roy up top.
Rory Burns would rival Aaron Finch for just the player that's been bowled the most in Test cricket as a batter, I reckon.
Tell you what, Jason Roy was throwing the hands at them as well, just quietly. Joe Root at 3.
Yeah, Root's a bit
He's missed Root.
He's almost one of them, you're too obvious. You've got to name him straight away.
Yeah.
Who was it for? I've written my writing's so poor. Joe, what was his last name? Yeah, Denley.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's quite hard. That's quite hard.
Yeah, thankfully Joe Root actually got Stokes out there at 5, so he actually knew one of these guys. Stokes at 5, Bairstow at 6, Butler 7.
I forgot Bairstow's on this.
Yeah, I got
Wokes,
Bairstow early on.
Anderson, Broad, and Archer.
Yeah. Leach.
And Jack Leach. Yeah.
Got to get that one.
He was played a heroic part in that.
Woke's a very forgotten English cricketer.
Yeah, he's in the squad. Which is
he might get a test.
Yeah, he'll get a run.
Swing it around a bit.
He won't be top wicket taker.
Score 40 odd.
He'll get a run.
I think runs from sort of 7 through 9 are actually going to be very handy in this Ashes. Just getting off top it.
Yeah, very
100%.
handy.
100%.
Munter, you're obviously Australia.
Okay.
I'll get you going in 3, 2, 1. Yours, please.
Okay, let's go with the obvious ones. Warner, Marnus, Payne, Head, Cummins, Lyon, Patterson, Kawaja, no Smith, I don't think. So I'm going to go like a Marcus Harris, and then pause.
Well, you've got 2 seconds. That's great. The problem here, Munter, is you might ask me a question and I'm not going to know the answer.
I know. Yeah. I need more info on how long's left. I reckon it's just
you've got 2 seconds,
boys. Yeah, I know it's a bit like now. I just paused it I needed my own timer. So
yeah, you might need your own.
How many is that? How many have I got?
I think you're at 9.
Yeah, let's go.
I'm at 9. Because we need more feedback here. I need to know like how many I'm getting.
Yeah, look, it was a lot tougher, I have to say, because I've got the team here and I'm looking at my watch, so I can't, and I'm holding my phone. So I'm at 6s and 7s here.
Gosh, the man needs a ring light.
Okay. So how many have I got?
We're going with 9 according to Jackson.
Well, I'd rather it according to you, the actual time game.
Yeah, it's just so much. You've got 2 seconds. You're just going to have to fire a couple.
Yeah, I know. I've got to really think this through. Okay, so.
You're missing.
Okay, I think I know one. I just need to figure out the other one, which I don't know. Okay, no, I've got it. Okay, ready? Okay, count me down.
3, 2, 1.
Wade Hazelwood.
It's Hazelwood?
Did I get it?
You could be right. You may have gone 11.
Wow, that's clutch. That's actually clutch.
Jeez, that's good.
I don't know if that falls within the spirit of the game where I kind of used it
I don't know if you... Did you ask a question?
I didn't actually ask a question.
You just give yourself an extra 30 seconds to answer that. I'm calling bullshit.
Hold
on, I'll just pause to ask my question. Give me a minute 30 to think these 2 through.
We didn't actually factor in all the pausing nothings.
No, there's some different.
I've actually got as long as we like to get this.
There's some different. Well, to be fair, like the one question I asked was how many I got, and I couldn't even get an answer to that.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here at the Comedy HQ.
Yeah, I think the boys we need a bit more practice at the actual the liaising. But that's all right. We'll get there. So. What do you remember about that test, boys? Because I just remember. I mean, you can't. Other than Stokes, it's all. I just can't remember anything really.
My biggest memory is Nathan Lyon. Nathan Lyon and Tim Payne's capitulation on the last day. The miss run out bad, but blowing that review and then was it LM Dar turned down the deadest of LBs.
Joe Wilson.
Yeah, Joe Wilson just didn't want to make that decision. What a cat! That was so out. But like Aussie losing the review like on just a throwaway one, like 2 balls before, after like muffing the run out. I mean, some of the best TV you ever see is the next day in that doco of the test, just them sitting there trying to watch that through, like unbelievable stuff. Talk about kicking dogs while they're down. That was just maybe where Langer lost the 11 potentially, but yeah, that sticks in my memory. Obviously outside of Stokes' innings, which was next level. Jack Leach's sort of retelling of the single, quite brilliant too. Out in the middle, just really sort of taking on, like that he sort of got it done himself and just let Stokesy finish it off for him. But that's definitely a good lasting memory too.
Yeah, I was actually gonna go outside of the game and go the Leach, because I think that was the most sort of grey cricket thing of it all. It's exactly what any good number 11 at any level would do, is retell the story as if they were the hero. And I think like out on the deck as well, and the boys just cracking up around them. I thought that was superb. That's why you play the game, sort of stuff. That series, I think, is the where I started sleeping in the lounge for any Ashes or away series. So I'll be back into the lounge very shortly for this Ashes. What happened was I was watching it all, fell asleep. I think Stokes hit a few, and I woke up when they needed about 60 odd left, and managed to stay up for it all. So just a brilliant last sort of hour.
Yeah, you start to wonder, like, because I woke up around a similar time with Stokes needing 60 odd, and you just sort of like, Stokes is having this out of body experience where he's like reverse sweeping Nathan Lyon over a deep point. And at first you're like, why is he reverse sweeping to where there's a sweeper? And then you're like, hang on, that's going for 6. And you're like, how is he doing this? Like, how is this even possible? And then it just sort of kept going. And Australia just got more and more rattled, which is why I like this team nowadays. Cause it's hard to say. I mean, they may still get rattled, but it doesn't feel like Nathan Lyon dropping the ball, like that review, like Tim Payne, just not a great captain, is he? Really?
I mean, I think Tim Payne's. I think he was what they needed for a minute there.
Yeah, fair.
But whether he was good enough bat or good enough at anything, another question. But it was what they needed.
100%.
Right, that memory though, sorry, of just Stokesy hitting that last boundary and hands in the air. That's outrageous.
Watching Stokes react just before the crowd does, and then because Stokes knows he's moosed it, and then the crowd sees Stokes react, and the crowd knows he's moosed it, and they go up like just that second after him.
I'm about to go YouTube that, Ace.
Yeah, that could be me now. Actually, one of the great
commentary.
Test ones.
Nessa's commentary, like, it's just perfection. It's like the Ashes is well and truly alive because of one cricketer, and that cricketer is Ben Stokes. Like, it's just it's iconic stuff. And fancy like Langer, like showing them that the full package the next day, like that is psychopath sort of behaviour.
Honestly,
you're getting a glimpse of him on comms, eh? It's interesting having him on comms because you're getting a wee glimpse into what he's like as a coach, and you're like, fuck, he seems like a good guy who really loves his players and loves Australia. But fuck, they get a bit much in like the bubble sort of scenario. Yeah, like there's just there's no time off, no day off. It's just
especially the early years when he was really riding the wave, and it just seemed to be like when he's the only sort of person you're dealing with outside of your mates. It's would have been intense back then. But imagine wee bit of dust creeping in. Probably the guys 12 to 15 felt all right in that meeting, but geez, fuck, Lyon must have felt like the smallest bloke in the world.
What would Lyon do when that's coming up? Like, is he making a joke? Is he head down? Like, I just couldn't be in that room.
Nah.
Someone's got to be manly enough to be like, yeah, we're not doing this.
Yeah,
like, we know what happened. We're not.
Yeah,
going
we all
through
played this. We're not watching that, mate.
I was listening to the TGC last week, and they had Jackson Bird on, who was in that squad before they picked the squad over there, and he was talking about how intense it was, and how they had like 2 Australian teams versing each other over there, and they said it was so intense that the 2 teams weren't allowed to talk to each other beforehand. And it was just really, like, it was out the gate. And he said it was, like, mentally draining. And then he got the call where he wasn't going to make the side. And he's like, okay, whatever. And then he's like, okay, and now we're going to have a drink. We'll get together, have a few beers, and like, sort of, congratulate the guys that made it. And he's like, oh, fuck that. Like, I'm out of here. Like, I'm not on the team. Like, what are we doing? Like, it's been torture.
Yeah, just get me my first class Qantas flight back home, thanks. I'll 100%. Get boozed up on that.
Thanks to Jacko, thanks to Luke for stopping by, and a big thank you to all the fans who tune in every week. This week is when we launch our first Patreon episode. Me and Jacko recorded that last night. This is Friday, so if you like what we do, tune into that and support the movement. We'll catch you boys next week.